a recognition of rodeo and parade committee members, and the recognition of the Cal Ripken baseball team for being the state champions. And before we do that, I would just like to read about the Cal Ripken team. West Jordan Copper Hills Baseball has been Cal Ripken certified since 2001. This year, our 11U team played and won through the district bracket, which includes teams from Brighton, Riverton, and Grantsville. They made it to the state tournament and played teams from Brighton, Taylorsville, Tooele, and Stansbury. They were the runners-up. They lost one game and played through the losers bracket, earning the second runner-up state champions. They represented West Jordan in the Pacific Southwest Regional Tournament. They played teams from Nevada, Utah, and California. They didn't win in the regional tournament, but made the West Jordan Copper Hills baseball family proud to make it as far as they did. Congratulations to Taz Adamson, Colton Apperly, Seth Dobson, Aiden Dudak, Hunter Logan, Isaiah Madrid, Samantha Proctor, Grayson Wallen, Zachary Wallen, Ryan Van Leeuwen, Parker Young, Nectarios Servos, and their coaches, Robert Dobson, Matt Logan, and Mark Young. And now we'll have the council step down for our recognition.
And Mayor Pro Tem, if it's okay, during this period of time, we'd like to go through all four of those recognitions, if that's acceptable to you, so that you don't have to keep coming back and forth. So let's go ahead and do the baseball team. Are we going to do the baseball team? Oh, I'm sorry. Wendell, you're here.
We could do the baseball team first.
Okay.
Wendell, I'm sure they love to hear about GIS, but they might more enjoy being able to go off to play baseball, so thank you. So at this point in time, we're okay to have the baseball team come on up, and please come and shake hands with the council members. And looks like we've got a photography moment. Is that what you want to do, is get a picture around the council? Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Like they've done this before. They know right where to line up. That's awesome. Actually, you can just stay right here. Okay, Wendell.
Well, we certainly don't want to step in front of the baseball team, so. It's a pleasure to be here this evening and to make this this recognition of our GIS group. If Clint and Sheldon and Andrew and Marlene could come forward and stand right back here for a minute. It's not very often that we get to recognize those who work behind the scenes to make the city work, but tonight is a wonderful exception that we'll be able to recognize them. We've known here at the city for quite some time that they're exceptional. They've put out different products, such as the internet mapping, which are wonderful and very useful. They're well known in the state of Utah for their work, and they've recently been recognized by an international group at the International Conference on GIS in California. Just for a quick background, so you know what GIS stands for. It's the Geographic Information System. It's a combination of mapping and database technologies. So it's not just us producing maps, but for each of the things on the map, it has data associated with it. For instance, if you go out in the parking lot this evening, you'll see that there are streetlights and trees and sidewalks and storm inlets. For each one of those, there's different information that we can input. We use that information to manage the billions of dollars that the residents in the city have put into place. It's a very useful tool, and these people behind me are the ones who make that work. On July 22nd this year, the West Jordan GIS division was honored with a Special Achievement in GIS award at the International Users Conference in California. In attendance were over 16,000 people. The award acknowledges vision, leadership, hard work, innovative use of the software. There were 170 groups that were recognized, teams like the one that we have here, out of 350,000 international teams. And the city of West Jordan team was the only one in the state of Utah that received this award. So if you would, it's a very prestigious award, as you might see. And so if you would join me and recognize them for the great work that they do for the city and for the receipt of this award. Thank you.
Steve, are you here? Thank you. Members of council, I'll just give a brief summary of what this Leadership Academy has completed in the last 18 months before we give their plaques of certificate of completion. The Leadership Academy is a training program for West Jordan City employees who have expressed a desire to progress in their careers and plan for leadership opportunities, and who have been recommended by their supervisors to participate in the program. The purpose was to train future leaders by learning about civic mechanics, in other words, how the departments work together to run a city, and secondly, management skills, and thirdly, leadership skills. The theme was becoming leaders regardless of our position or title. The curriculum included 18 months of meetings, 80 hours of class instruction, assignments outside of class, presentations by 25 city departments and division managers, 18 outside guest speakers, which included city managers, attorneys, human resource specialists, conflict resolution experts, and others. We've received the leadership training program from the Arbinger Institute, and throughout all of this, the emphasis was placed on principles of teamwork, communication, conflict resolution, creative problem solving, and personal relationships. And perhaps most importantly, in addition to this curriculum, each participant created
and carried out an individual project that was designed to improve the functioning of the system in some way, in efficiency or cost or employee morale. Some of those projects include writing a proposal for employee telecommuting policy, installing information video screens for Justice Center customers, implementing purchasing cards to replace credit cards, creating mentorship program for fire department captains, creating a video tour of fire stations as an option for visitors, organizing a police activities league, which is an after-school recreation program for kids, contracting with a temporary staffing agency to hire seasonal employees, creating a mobile app and database for mapping sidewalk hazards, writing comprehensive parks management plans, creating a system to score and prioritize sewer pipe replacements, designing a system to organize thousands of digital engineering files, creating a system to survey and map sewer and storm infrastructure. And all of those projects are either completed or in the process of being carried out right now.
Thank you, Steve. I always want to thank Steve because mid-project I had to hand this over to him and ask him to take over, and I will just say that he exceeded my expectations or anything that I even dreamed that it could become. And I hope that you recognize some of these titles of these projects that, as Steve said, are actually affecting the the daily workings of the city and how our efficiency and what we're producing and providing to our citizens. And so I believe that this putting these resources into this use is very good, because not only are we developing leaders in any part of the city, but they're also showing where we can save money and improve efficiency. This has been so good that we've had other cities ask us for the curriculum, and so they're wanting to start these in their own cities. And I was at a meeting this week where a private enterprise, I mentioned this, and the private enterprise hit me up and said, we're doing something like that. Could we borrow your curriculum so we can make sure we're doing the same thing with our employees? And so they're recognizing that developing leaders is very important. So I want to thank all these individuals. So at this time, let's read their names, Steve, and have them come up and accept their award and shake your hands.
Okay, as I read your names, please come up and accept a plaque and shake hands. Julie Brown, Lourdes Rivera, Paul Wellington, David Montoya, Marty Whiteman, Alex Darelli, Chris Pearson, Clint Hutchings, David Nader, Justin Rail, Nate Nelson, Tim Hayrand, and Steve Glane. I guess some of us are not here, but those who are here, please come up and accept your plaque. Councilmember Southworth, were you going to take care of the next portion? Okay.
No, if I could have the parade committee and the Western Stampede committee please come up and stand up here. And while they're coming up, I'm going to put my baseball cap on because I don't get to wear a hat in council meeting very often. As long as it doesn't mess up my hair, we'll probably be all right. As these folks come out, I'll tell you a little bit about what they've done. The parade, if you've noticed, parades, I don't know if you noticed, they've been struggling lately with floats and trying to keep up with the changing times. And the parade in West Jordan has continued to be a spectacular event. It's always amazing to walk those lines and see the people packed, sometimes 4 or 5 deep in chairs and lawn chairs and all. It's just an amazing event. And we're grateful for all the time and dedication that our volunteers put into that parade. In the Western Stampede, I've had the pleasure, absolute pleasure, to work with the Western Stampede for the last 4 or 5 years. And just to give you a little history of where we've come from, in those 5 years, when we started off a little bit of reorganization, we were averaging about a $30,000 loss every year to the city of West Jordan. These folks have turned that around to profits. Now, they're not huge profits, but we're on our way. But that's a huge turnaround. They dedicate so much time to the city and to the celebration, a 60-plus year celebration of the city of West Jordan. That's huge. That is very, very cool. They're there some days before the sun comes up, and always before the sun goes down. They're still there. So we want to take a moment to say thank you to all of them. They are the heart and soul of what makes this parade, makes the Western Stampede, our Independence Day celebrations happen. Without them, they do not happen. And so we want to take a moment to say thank you to them. Let's start with We have Nathan Gage, who is recently our chair of the Western Stampede. Lynn Bower headed up the rodeo. Marvin Conrad, who took care of our queens. Mark Wright is our past chair. Clive Kilpat has our entertainment and does a great job. Alan Richards takes care of all of our concessions to make sure we all eat well while we're there. Teresa Wright is not here tonight. Steve Bowler is on the committee. Corey Bullock, Captain Whitting, and Melissa Worthen. And now for our parade, we have Marianne Morehouse. And Chris Hansen as well. One more time, if you wouldn't mind, please give these folks a hand. If you please go shake hands with the council.
That concludes all of our presentations tonight. Thank you.
Oh, yes. We'll move now to communications. Interim City Manager.
Thank you. Council members, just want to let you know that Kim Wells has provided us a update on the Survey Monkey survey for the murals, and I believe I'm going to put a copy of that in your mailbox or here on the dais for you. We'll get that out on the website, but I just wanted you to see the input that citizens have had to that. As I've mentioned before, we know that many of you are interested in the language for this, and we invite you to work with our staff as we go forward on this. There is a public process that we are obligated to follow under state law. We go to the City Planning Commission first, they would forward a recommendation into the City Council, public hearing at that point, and then you can make any changes if you so determine, but obviously our goal is to work harmoniously with not only the citizens, but you as council to make sure that we have documents and ordinances that everyone can live with. So please let me know if any of you have a desire to sit down with our staff and have discussion about that subject. I'd like to thank you again as our City Council for your continued support of our employees. We had the employee picnic last week, and I'm not sure exactly, I didn't hear the final count, but it was somewhere between 800 and 1,000 employee members and families, and City Council members were invited to attend that also, and we've heard that that was the high water mark of city parties, and so we again thank you for that support. It's amazing the morale booster that is for our families to be able to come together and see who employees work with and to have that type of a social, and it was very well attended. The last item is I just want to let you know that I've been in some meetings over the last couple of days where I've been learning about some of the cities around us that have been having buyouts, particularly in public safety. What this means is they're actually enticing employees who have a number of years, over 30 years in the system, to retire and move out. I heard one of the cities say that they've had over 20 police officers leave their force. Another one said they had 4 firefighters leave their force. That creates a vacuum in the system, and I believe that if we had not taken the steps that you had taken to support the staff with the wages, that we would be in even more of a dire position to hang on to those employees. I was at the Varnum's banquet the other night. They expressed their sincere appreciation to all of you for supporting them. I know the police officers and all of the staff feel the same for the changes that you have been willing to make in your compensation, and I believe that that's going to have a big payoff as other cities try to fill these positions. So I just again want to thank you publicly for your steps that you've taken to support the staff in this area. That's all I have. Thank you.
Attorney Daria?
I don't have anything today, thank you.
David Oka?
Yes, day before yesterday, a demo permit was issued for the former gas station at 27th West, 7800 South. Backhoe was on site today, and the canopy's pretty much gone today. So we'll see some progress on that site in the future. I'd also like to bring to the attention of council the new city planner, Scott Langford. Many of you are familiar with him, and he's in the audience tonight. If you'd like to stand, I'd appreciate that. That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian?
Just one real quick item. Out at the soccer complex, we're hosting one of the biggest soccer tournaments in the state, 360 plus teams. So if you guys drive up by 40th and 78th, that area, be prepared to be stuck in traffic for a while. It's backing up pretty bad up there, so that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Wendell?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Chief McElreath?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Chief Diamond?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As was Steve Blaine mentioned, the PAL program, that one of the officers that attended that helped facilitate that and start that up. That's something that I've been working on, trying to get going here in West Jordan. We finally have it up and running. We had so far 2 weeks of athletic events and things with some youth in our city over in the park. And next Monday and Wednesday will be the 2 last sessions for this summer. Getting that going, we will expand this program as it moves on. But we're very fortunate to have the staff that we have to be able to put those things together and that care about the youth so much in our community to have those activities for these youth and try and get them. We South Salt Lake and West Jordan now are the only 2 police agencies in the valley and almost in the state that have PAL, or Police Activity League programs. So we're on the leading edge of that, and we're grateful for that. So thank you.
Thank you. Please, City Clerk.
Yeah, I don't have comments very often. I received an email later this afternoon regarding the canvassing of the primary election that took place yesterday. We received notice from Salt Lake County that we need to canvass the election on Tuesday the 18th, a week from today, instead of the 25th. And I think the purpose for that is because of the transportation tax issue that would be on the ballot. It's going to take them more processes to get the ballots prepared and get them mailed out to all the Salt Lake County candidates. So my question to you is, because we have to do it on Tuesday, we can do it it'll take probably 10 or 15 minutes at the most. We can hold it down in the community room. It will have to be because there's a planning commission meeting that night. So I guess what time works for all of you, and hopefully it works. We can do it during the day, we can do it whenever it works for all of you.
Anytime Tuesday for me.
I mean, like 5:30?
In the evening for me.
5:30, 6, just 6 normal time? Okay. The other item is then, because we don't have to canvass the election on the 25th, do you want to continue to have the meeting on the 26th, our typical date?
We can't.
Okay,
We've scheduled something
the
else.
public hearing, okay, I saw that, so, okay, perfect.
Councilmember
question?
Stein?
Quick question on the meeting for the 18th.
I'm sorry.
Will we have enough people
Yeah, will we have a quorum?
there? I can make it, but it would have to be electronically, so I want to make sure we have enough people physically present so we can avoid an electronic meeting.
I'll be here.
I have work commitments, Mayor.
I'll be here.
Judy will be here, the mayor, Councilmember Hagan, okay, and Councilmember Rice. Okay, well, at least we'll have 4. I can set it up as a
Just in
electronic if
case
you
someone
want.
said.
All right, we'll do that.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember McCartney?
Nothing this week, thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Hanson?
Nothing tonight, thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Hagan?
Thanks, Mayor. I actually have 3 things. We heard from the interim city manager about the mural issue that we are dealing with within our city. I hope everybody can hear me. And I just want to give you a little background. Councilmember McConaughey and I attended the gathering by that restaurant that were in question concerning murals. And Councilmember McConaughey can maybe correct me, but I think there was probably about 100 people civilly meeting, talking about 175, thanks, Councilmember, and peacefully meeting to talk about their culture and what art is. And, for me, having grandchildren that have Hispanic background, culture is important, not only for my culture that comes from the pioneer heritage, but from my grandkids' culture that comes from South America. It's important, and they're part of our community. And with the mayor, myself, and some other business leaders, we visited this business. We've looked at the mural, and we made our assessments, what we felt was art and what wasn't. And, that's subjective. What is on there was very, very impressive, very well done. Actually done by one of our past high school students. And, while I was at the gathering, I was fortunate to meet somebody from Salt Lake, I think maybe he's in the meeting here today, that shared with me what Salt Lake did when it came to their ordinance concerning murals. And freely they gave it to me, and obviously in this, government, we don't necessarily always have to reinvent the wheel when we have other cities that have already talked about this, solved the issue, things like that. So I had proposed to the interim city manager that ordinance from Salt Lake County. And I frankly thought it would be up for our discussion today. Now, I'm not opposed to process. I'm actually a proponent of process through planning and zoning. But I was elected by these constituents, and I would like the council, those that represent our diverse city, to sound out on what they believe. My thinking, I've sent this to the city management and to staff as far as the Salt Lake ordinance, that basically the first step would be simple. Tonight we could have made a motion to make murals no longer considered a sign. Now that's a broad statement, but what Salt Lake did was go a step further. And that's where we need discussion as policymakers, in my position, from our residents on what we consider as a sign, what we consider as art. It's subjective. So I would like to see, if I can, I'm one of 7, that this topic of murals come to our council. We have public discourse. We've all talked about how we like to hear from our residents. We want to know. And then we as a council body, not me, we as a council body then can direct our planning and zoning, who serves at our privilege,
to come up with more details, talk to the residents a little more detail about a solution for this. This is an important decision in our community. It doesn't just affect one side of our diversity, it affects all sides. So I would ask that we as a council body, if there's any opposition, that we bring this back at our next council meeting and talk about what we think is elected officials on rules, what is considered art, and a solution that will be beneficial to all our community, not just a minority. So that's all I have to say about that. I hope some of the folks are in the audience that were at the gathering. The other thing, it's coincidental I have a crown, but I know, we are fortunate to be able to get the old library building as we consider a temporary facility for our cultural arts. And right now, now we're going into the new fiscal budget, we are still paying for storage to store things like this. And even though we're a city, it's not a big burden. But when we have a building that we've talked about utilizing, last council meeting I asked staff to start talking about and come back with a solution on what we're going to do with the props. There's some beautiful costumes starting to drop on the floor that really the art people have that they want to preserve. And right now they're sitting in some pretty bad situations, and I'd like to see something done with that, since we might have a nice clean building. They're willing to clean them and things like that. But I just bring this up to your attention, so we can get out of those storage units as the whole council approved back in 2014. And then, just one last thing. I have to object to some things that have been put on Facebook by some of our employees. I can't, as a politician, honestly say I'm not a target. I am. Feel free to talk about me as free as you want. But I think there's a certain degree, and I work for a major corporation, when, you have a responsibility in social media to pay respect to management, clear down to the blue-collar workers that work on our streets. And I see on Facebook a lot of things going on by our employees, and all I'd ask is that we look into having a Facebook or a social media policy to where, the employees know what's allowed, what isn't, and I'm not the expert on telling you how that should be, other than I work for a company, and those are things that they hold very, very important. That their image, and I think still with West Jordan, is held at the highest standards. So if I can direct staff to think about a Facebook policy or a social media policy, I'd appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. A heartfelt welcome back, Scott. It's good to have you here. I was debating whether to bring this up or not, but I think it's appropriate, and I won't list a name. But as legislators, as a legislative body, our job is to represent the people, represent the city when called to. It's to debate policy. It is not a place to yell at people. And in the closed meeting before this open meeting, I observed behavior that I was embarrassed as an elected official. I want to issue a public warning to this individual that you refrain.
Point of order, Mayor. Closed doors are confidentiality based.
This argument has nothing to do with the content of that meeting. It was behavior that was observed. And when you are in a seated environment
and you stand and you yell at a contract attorney. And when you point your
Point of
finger,
order, Mayor, I think we're at the point of revealing confidentiality.
I have not revealed anything that was said in that meeting. I am asking this council member to refrain from this type of behavior in the future. It's uncalled for, it's unbecoming of a public official to act that way. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Southwood.
Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to say thank you or welcome back to Scott. It's good to see you. I look forward to more great work. You've always done a great job. I'm sad to see you go, happy to see you come back. So the world turns on. At this time, I have had requested item 9C, along with Councilman Nichols, that the information provided in 9C brought before the council. This time I would ask that that be pulled and placed on the next council agenda in the following manner. First of all, that the three items, the three topics discussed be separated so they can be discussed separately and individually. The first one being the parks issue. If that can come back as a consent item, then so be it. If not, then we will take it as a business item. But if consent, that would be better. The second item, which is what Councilman Nichols had put on there in regard to the duties and responsibilities of the council and mayor and finding those consistencies between state code. And lastly, a salary discussion. If those can be three separate items, I appreciate that and concur with Councilman Nichols, who's the other part of that item is agrees with that as well and make the same request. Lastly, I too want to comment. I felt the same embarrassment that Councilman Nichols expressed, not just as an elected official, but as a human being, to watch and see the type of behavior that I just watched. To stand over somebody, physically bent over, raised voice, red face, and threaten. It's Councilman Hagan, if you would please let me finish.
You're revealing confidentiality in closed session.
Yes, but we're out of time.
And I would hope that we could find a way to behave much better. Councilman Hagan, that was uncalled for. And I hope that you can find a way to correct
Point of
it.
order, Mayor. You attacked me personally here on the dais. Point of order.
Councilmember Rice.
Nothing at this time, Mayor, thank you.
Councilmember Haga. Response.
I won't reveal anything that happened in closed door because what I did was last council meeting, and I review it on the minutes, is I made a statement about council members, and I'm sorry that we have this kind of contention, even on the dais, but the council members to my left on July 20, I forgot the date, but I'll look at it on the minutes, directed our staff to eliminate a position in our city. And I made a statement about that. I invite you to read that. And basically, a contracted attorney who works for the city, I'm disclosing this public, not what he said, verbally assaulted me. I stood up and I left the meeting. Many folks that were in the meeting here witnessed me coming in alone because I'm not going to tolerate people disrespecting my position as elected official. So despite what you hear and the confidentiality they revealed with my name even, all I will tell you is out of order, Mayor, and I'm expecting an apology from the contract attorney.
I have just one comment. It's really hard for me to sit here and have a member of this council that accused another member that came across the table at me just less than 6 weeks ago in the same manner, and no one opposed it then. Citizens' comments. If you are here to speak on the a public hearing that time to speak would be at a later time during that public hearing item. If you're here to speak on any other item, now would be the time. You'll be allowed 3 minutes. We have 5 signed up to speak. That'll be first. Kathy Hill.
Hi, it's my pleasure to be here in this council room again where I've spent many hours and many years. I am a little concerned about one of the items on the agenda. It's the one for the raise for our interim city manager. And it's not necessarily against the raise itself, it's actually against the timing of this raise. Because I know that you're right now in the process of picking a city manager, and so I assume that that would be done in the next month or two. And so if you wanted to reward him for something that has been done, I would suggest that you do that more in a bonus. If he gets the job, that would be the time to raise his salary, since it's only going to be a couple months. And so I would say, and if he doesn't, then there's always a way to do it by giving him a bonus for the things in if you figure he's done some outstanding things, then you could do a bonus for the exemplary things that he has done for the city. And so that would be my suggestion. It seems kind of odd that you would give him a raise just before you're about to pick a city manager. The timing just seems really off to me, especially $44,000. That's a lot. And I know that he has been here for a year, but that is not odd in itself. I sat on the council many times when we had interim city managers, and we did not raise their salaries. We did give them bonuses when their time was up. If they received the job, then we gave them the raise. If they did not receive the job, then we gave them a bonus for a job well done. So that would be my suggestion instead of doing that, because you don't know what you're going to start that new city manager at. If you give him a $44,000 raise right now, you're basically telling him, okay, that's for the job you're doing now. Where are you going to go if he's hired? Are you going to give him another raise? Or is he expected to go on the raise that he received when he was still interim city manager? So it really doesn't play out very well for what you're going to do in the next couple months. So I would please ask that you wait to give the raise until the city manager is picked. And then I would also ask you to please look very closely at the experience that people have in the number of people that are in the city, the experience in economic development. I sit around and I look at a city that I love, and that I work very, very hard. And we did a lot of things in economic development. And I have yet to see anything that come to the city, and nothing personal with anybody, but I have yet to see anything come to the city that's worth $44,000 for a raise. I see roads that aren't taken care of. I see blight. I see we don't have a code enforcement anymore. I see things that used to be kept up that are not kept up anymore. And it's because it doesn't matter to people in the city anymore. Because no one takes the time when you make a call, which I have done, nothing's ever done. No one ever returns your calls. And it's very frustrating when you tell people you live in West Jordan now and people look at you like, oh, West Jordan, it's another West Valley. You know, it's not. And we have great people in this city. And we have great people that care about this city. And I really would like you to look at some of the things that we're not doing anymore. And I know my time's up, but please, please look at this city and make priorities now. Too much infighting, not enough on people government.
Alexandra Ephraimov.
Mayor and the council, let's pause a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, may we pause for a moment to reflect upon our common goals. Before we begin the business of this meeting, we are privileged to gather here together in a system that gives us freedom to participate in our own governance, whether from within or through the strength provided by our personal faith. We seek wisdom, understanding, fairness, and resolve in the fulfillment of our duties and in the pursuance of our goals. May our differences be respected and our common aspiration of promoting the public good be our guide in carrying out the tasks we're about to undertake. Thank you. I'm 1,000,000% against giving the $44,000 to our interim. He currently, folks, is making $115,024 a year. That's without benefits, folks. Let's not spend our money. Don't spend our, or I'm waiting for an apology from one of our councilmen, by the way. Still waiting the abominable behavior of the councilman to the other council members. I'm still waiting for an apology here. We're asking for apologies all around. Let's have peace. But peace begins with an apology, folks. I'm still waiting, councilperson. Anyway, getting back to the interim, $44,000, you love to spend our money. I agree with the individual just in front of me, and I beg you not to do that. The other thing is, 9C, I'm not really clear if we're still going to debate some of that or not, but I tell you, I feel as if I'm watching a live horror stage play when I read that. I thought our city mission was to move forward and not backward. I think that the devil Satan, that he's entered this room in the body of one of our council people. And the thing is in Proverbs, in the Bible, chapter 18-7, a fool's mouth is his destruction, and his lips are the snare of his soul. So I tell you, I don't know what to do. I just, we're supposed to invite people into West Jordan, and yet this 9C is the worst that I have ever known. Shame, shame on the councilman to have presented that. It's caused so much of a stir. Shame, shame, shame. I just want to know why. I just don't understand it. Thank you.
Jay Thomas.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. On 9B, I just want to make it publicly known that I'm against it. I won't go into a lot of other detail, won't waste my time. It's been said already. Other than one additional item, if we do compensate and add an additional $44,000 to the budget, then I would think we need to open that budget back up again and have a public hearing. Otherwise, it can't be as it is anyway. So I think we're violating our own code and city ordinance. So just want to bring that up to your attention. And then on 9C, under section 10.3B-202, under the state statute, which was just adopted May 12th of this year, it states, and it was signed by the governor, that the mayor is the CEO of the city. So that would make the mayor the CEO of West Jordan City. And with being the CEO, that would make him the elected CEO, which gives him the power to sign documents, and even under some of the state guidelines and stuff, it says that only the highest elected official can sign those agreements and those contracts. So how can we give power to somebody who's a non-elected official and have there be no accountability? That's the reason why we have elections, and if we don't like the results of those elections, it's a simple thing. Every 4 years, we go vote. We just had a vote. I know personally. Still waiting to find out what's going on, but so that is why we have our votes, and that is why we have the system we do. And I just think that's part of the checks and balances. And if we're delegating some of those resources or some of those duties to a non-elected official, I think that's a delegation that just cannot happen, and it can't happen under state statute. Anyway, I've said my piece. Thank you.
Thank you. Julie Bell.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor Welp and West Jordan Council members. It looks like we have the same concerns, or I have the same concerns as some of the people that have come before me. It was on 9B and 9C. I'm happy to see 9C was pulled, but I will have a few things to say about that. As you've mentioned, you'll be bringing it back. I want to thank former Councilwoman Kathy Hilton for what she shared, and also Mr. Thomas. On 9B, that 44,000, and again, it's nothing personal to Mr. Hatterley or to anybody, but that's an average wage here in our state, and that's a very big raise. One of my other concerns, if we were to go forward with this, is it appears that that wage would stay because he would continue to be assistant city manager, and that's a big jump. And so I do agree that that should, if anything were to happen with this, it would be in the future, not at the time we're trying to hire a current city manager, not an interim. And I think that looking at the job, we might want to do a wage salary survey, not just a table of what's going on in the other cities, and just see what's commensurate and what should happen in that position. So I would suggest that the council vote this raise down today. On 9C, Mr. Thomas quoted the current statute. I was quite concerned with Mr. Southworth, Councilman Southworth, excuse me. All the citations were from a non-existing statute of 2007. Nothing in all of my history in which with legislation and government would allow anything, municipal ordinance be based on a non-existing statute. The citation was completely from Section 12, which was been completely removed, and so that would be inappropriate. Also, I didn't find any justification. I'm glad you're splitting them out, but I didn't find any justification for the reduction of the mayor to a part-time from a full-time. And even bringing ourselves there, as we're talking about going forward, we've always, the reason why is every mayor I've known from West Jordan for the past and the present, it takes more than full-time to do it. So it doesn't seem like that would even make any kind of sense to go part-time. And so if you're going to go forward with that, I'd like to see a justification of why you would be going backwards. Let's see. Also, again, I just urge you, if you go forward with 9C, and you might want a little more time with this to study this out, because it must be done under current statute. And under current statute, the mayor is the one who suggests who the city manager will be and approval by the council, and that this council doesn't have the ability under 10(3)B, 203, 1C, double I and triple I, the council may not interfere in any way with an executive officer's performance of the officer's duties, or publicly or privately give orders to a subordinate of the mayor. Thank you for your time.
Jalen Thomas.
Jalen Thomas, 1348 West Spartan Hollow Drive. I want to address the council to reconsider the signing of the contract on 9B for the following reasons. Number one, the city has already entered into a contract with taxpayer money to an executive search firm to find a city manager. It would be premature to sign a contract when you are on the verge of interviewing applicants who could potentially be more qualified for this position. Number two, I know for a fact that a former employee has filed an alleged workplace discrimination complaint against a highly ranked city official and one other city administrative staff. The claim was filed last week and is currently being processed by the State of Utah Labor Commission, and the city will soon be served. It is unwise for the city to sign a contract with an individual who has an actively alleged discrimination complaint against them. I spoke directly with at least 4 of you on the council about how your in-house investigation was flawed, and I talked about how in my case there was no fair investigation until the Federal Equal Employment Opportunity Commission investigated my claim. Now there will be a formal and unbiased investigation into this matter. I urge you to reconsider a contract until these issues are resolved and avoid another costly severance package paid by the citizens of West Jordan. And again, I really love how you like to bring up each other's behavior. Well, we have one person who had a temper tantrum on the dais, threw her pen on April 29th, and that's okay? Is this a situational thing, or does it only apply to certain people? I'm just wondering, because you guys are all back and forth, bantering, saying nasty stuff on Facebook, in the newspaper. Knock it off, because you know what? These rules apply to all of you, not just some of you, all of you.
Anyone from the public wishing to address the council at this time, please come forward, state your name and address.
Ronald Day, 2269 Moore Lane. I'm not sure whether this item was the one pulled or not. I can't keep track in my old age. But I've come to address the issue of reducing the mayor's to a part-time position and eliminating some of his responsibilities. As some of you know, when this was discussed 2 years ago, I was one of those that was opposed to making it a full-time position because I didn't think we needed it. Interestingly enough, having talked with the 2 previous mayors, they have in fact said that it's a full-time position, and having seen Mayor Alt in action, I know that it is. I just don't want to get into these personal battles, but I would ask the council to reconsider and frankly pull that item permanently. A couple of items I would call to your attention. One was that with the full-time mayor, as we all know, we went through a prison battle, and having a full-time mayor did have an impact there. The biggest item I was given as to why we wanted a full-time mayor was the fact that most of the other cities in the valley do have full-time mayors, and for us to be sending either a part-time member or the city administrator to meetings where the mayors were, they had a tendency to condescend on us. I can assure you with Mayor Rolfe that isn't happening. Furthermore, we had the battle of trying to get a car dealership in this valley, and one of the major car dealers in the valley adamantly opposed. That item went to the legislature. Many of them weren't even aware that that law was on the books. And our mayor, while we didn't get all that we wanted, led that charge in making that change. And frankly, I think under the RICO law, I don't think that the legislature is still right. I think we ought to proceed, and staff seem not to be doing anything with that, and so I'm glad to see the mayor take that up. If you make the mayor a part-time position, just put yourself in that his boat or her boat. When are you going to work the part-time? You're going to work it in the morning, you're going to work it in the afternoon, you're going to work it in the evening. When are the citizens who know who the mayor is because they had a vote in that able to make their appointments to then see that person? Also, as has been mentioned previously, we're in the process of hiring a new city manager. I think that we can have the 2 of them work out their areas of responsibility. I raised that issue 2 years ago, and it fell on deaf ears. But I think there is a solution if we just work at it. I won't get into the personalities. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing, please?
Clyde Kilpack, 3813 Elwood Way. I am grateful
for the opportunity to stand before you, and for many more reasons than just one. I'm just grateful I could stand for the first thing, having a knee replacement just recently. But I'm concerned about a couple of items that are on the city agenda today, and I hope I'll try to be concise and quickly. Bryce, I think the world of you, but I worry council members about setting a very dangerous precedent in raising the salary that you were talking about at this point. And the reason I say that is I've sat through times when we've had an interim city manager, and that individual is in this room today and did not receive one dime in addition to funding for serving in that position. So if you're going to do an interim city manager and raise them to the level of a city manager, you're doing a disservice to others who have already followed in it, and you're setting a dangerous precedence in playing with the funds that you have a fiduciary responsibility as a council to protect. Secondly, with regards to 9C, there were several items there that I would ask for your consideration as you are reconsidering these things. Number one, there was a talk about some things that the mayor shouldn't be signing all the contracts and things. I have not known in this council, under our form of government, one contract, not one contract, that the mayor or the mayor pro tem has signed that has not been before this council and approved. And if he has signed, or any mayor has signed, anything that has not been approved by you, who are the governors of the guardians of the purse, then those contracts should be null and void. Now, there have been some allowances made that the city manager could sign some contracts, but it was within the budget and it was up to a certain dollar level. Everything else has to come before you and your body, and the mayor is the person who is, by statute, the person who would sign those contracts after you have made those decisions. To make that change, then you are looking at wanting to change the form of government that we have. And if you're going to look at changing form of government, then let's do it another way. Let's do it at looking at a strong mayor form of government. Me personally, I like the council manager form. I think that it's great that each of us, every resident, every voter has the opportunity to have 4 members of the council that they voted for, that they had the opportunity to go to. And that's the majority. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I will close the citizens' comments and move to consent. Councilmember Southwood.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to pull items D and K. D's and Delta.
D and K. Councilmember Hagan.
Yeah, Mayor, thank you. I'd like to pull 7A, so I can review my comments from last week. I think there's some inaccuracy. And, excuse me, there's quite a few. P and Q. Thank you, Mayor.
P and Q. Okay, so A, D, K, P, and Q. Councilmember Southwood.
Thank you. I move to approve the remaining items. Second.
Motion by Councilmember Southworth and a second by Councilmember Nichols. Discussion to the motion. Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Rice? Aye. Councilmember Southward?
Aye.
Mayor Wall?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
The vote passes 7 in favor.
Item 8A, public hearing. Receive public input and consider for approval ordinance 15-20, amending the 2009 West Jordan Municipal Code, Title 13, to allow gasoline service station in the CM heavy commercial zoning district, citywide applicability, Foursquare properties. David Oken.
Thank you. Nanette Larson is here to answer any questions. You received the information in your packets of information. At this time, she stands ready for any questions.
Councilmember Hagan.
Thanks, Mayor. David, just because, I know what it's about, but it's, Jordan Liney's one of our biggest, property owners in the city. Can you describe a little bit more what this is about before we continue?
Certainly, be happy to. At the northwest corner of Airport Road, 7800 South, is a property that's currently zoned CM. The owner has come forward to request a text amendment to allow a gas station, a service convenience store on that corner, which is very appropriate for that location. It went through the Planning Commission and was approved and is now here before you for this public hearing.
Councilmember Southworth.
Thank you. If I could get a planning perspective of why originally this was not allowed in this zoning district, can I get you a little... I just question why we're moving, why the change. Not that that's a bad thing, but from a planning perspective, why would it have been this way originally? And what has changed to make it so that now we should allow this?
Looking at the ordinance, I think it was just an oversight. We just, at the time that the original ordinance was passed, we just weren't aware that gasoline service stations weren't included in the CM district. When the applicant, Foursquare Properties, submitted for the rezone or the text amendment, it brought it to the staff's attention that it really doesn't affect all that much in these CM districts. There's only 3 areas in the city where CM districts are zoned.
Is that a typical, as you go from city to city, is it pretty typical to have fuel stations allowed as a CM type zone?
It's allowed in all other commercial zoning districts. It's also allowed in most of the manufacturing districts. There's actually a gasoline service station located at the corner of 7800 South and 1300 West, which is a legal non-conforming use. And we haven't had any complaints from surrounding property owners or tenants. And that gasoline service station was at that location prior to the rezone in that area.
And I assume that because this is based on the zoning, that the future land use map would be consistent with this fuel station being there.
It is consistent with the future land use map and the general plan.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from council? Thank you. We'll now open the public hearing. If anyone wishes to speak on item 8A, now would be the time. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Item 8A. Look to the council for discussion or a motion. Councilmember Southwood.
Just a quick comment. I wouldn't tell a business owner how to run their business and what to do. I do have a little bit of concern of oversaturation with fuel stations in this area. You've got almost a stone's throw, depending on how big you can throw. You've got 2 other gas stations on 2 corners that seem to be functioning fairly well. So it's not my place to tell you how to run a business. I have a little concern that we may have a situation of oversaturation here. I would hate to see this force something like we've seen on the corner of 78 and 2700 West, where the gas stations can't compete there. They continue to go out of business, and so I'm not predicting that. I don't know that. I haven't run the models here on what it can sustain, but it is a concern. But it wouldn't be enough for me to say that that's not worth supporting this.
Councilmember Hagan.
Mayor, unless there's more discussion, I'm ready for a motion.
More comment if you don't. Go ahead. Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I was going to do something similar to Councilmember Hague. I was going to make one comment that while I agree with Councilmember Southworth, and I would hope any developer would keep that in mind, similarly, I have no objection to at least giving them the option to consider that in their planning. With that, I would move that based on the information and findings set forth, we approve the text amendment to Title 13 of 2009 City Code to permit gasoline service stations in the heavy commercial CM zoning district.
Second. I have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey and a second by Councilmember Hague. Discussion to the motion? Let's vote. Please. No, I just,
Jim, you know, I don't know if I was in a meeting with our economic development director, but you know that we have a gas station along 78. This is the #1 gas station. That just shows you how much that is needed there to be that busy, to be the #1 of a franchise. So I think this is a good move for us. People are looking to the old neighborhood store more. You know, this is a gas station, but we know what it will be. So anyway, that's why I'm a proponent of this. I think it will bring in some good revenue. Thanks, David.
let's vote.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice? Aye. Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Mayor Roth?
Yes.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Vote passes 7 in favor.
Item 8B, receive public input and consider for approval Resolution 15-146, amending the fiscal year 2015-2016 salary schedule. This is to be continued until August 25th, 2015, and we need a motion.
So moved.
Have a motion by Councilmember South. Questions to the motion? Okay.
I have a question from legal, if I could, Mayor.
Okay. The first motion by Councilmember Southworth, the second by Councilmember Nichols. Now the question.
Counselor, I'm wondering, and I'm not the expert, but we've continued this twice. We've had a public hearing. Should we be continuing to have another public hearing? Well, I'm just to get, if you want to defer it to our clerk, I'll allow that too.
You're not required to have additional public hearings once you've had it.
Thank you.
Let's vote.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Mayor Roth?
Yes.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Councilmember Rice?
Aye.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Vote passes 7 in favor.
Business item 9A, discussion and possible action related to how the stormwater equivalent residential unit, ERU, is calculated for non-residential properties. Wendell?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Earlier this year, a presentation was made to you, proposals regarding changing the stormwater rate and the equivalent residential unit calculation for the residents of the city and the businesses in the city. During that meeting, several options were discussed, and comments were made about how other cities also figured the rates and how they figured their ERUs. As a result of that meeting, council directed staff to go back and look at the base calculations on percentage of impervious surface area and then bring back a report to you. As a result of that, we began working with the Utah State University GIS department. They had done similar work, and so we were able to get them to help us. They've had some issues with some of their work staff because of the summer. Their work staff were students. We were still working on that. We're anticipating that that's going to come forward pretty quickly, but in the interim, it was found that several unintended consequences of having the calculations performed based on impervious surface area that we thought that we should bring back to you and have you look at those before we continued on with the work. So Justin has done the work on this. I've asked him to make the remainder of the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to speak on this. As Wendell Rigby described, as we started looking through the pervious area, we found there were a number of complications that arose by basing the calculations on the impervious area. Some of those are listed in the council report, so I won't belabor them. But it just talks about the ability to verify the impervious area, to be able to handle appeals or changes to that impervious area. And we found that several surrounding cities have had to hire additional staff to be able to handle those types of calculations. When we looked at when I say non-residential, it's everything that's not a single or a duplex, a residential home. When we looked at those, we found that almost all of those situations lie between 77 and 92% impervious. So by keeping the calculations based upon total area, we're not making that big of a difference because the impervious area falls in such a narrow window. It doesn't really make that big of an impact to base everything on the impervious area. With the understanding there's a number of complications that arise from that. So we went through with the understanding that we're keeping the storm rate the same at $4.02. We looked at what the current quarter-acre calculation meant based upon what the surrounding cities have done. We looked at almost a dozen different cities, and we had almost the lowest rate and the highest ERU as shown in the staff report. We did a comparison with the help of Ryan in finance. We did a comparison of what a big box residential store would mean in West Jordan versus all of the surrounding areas. For an annual stormwater fee in West Jordan, we were looking at just under $1,900 in an annual stormwater fee. The next lowest city to us was West Valley at $5,500. And on the average, we're looking at close to $8,000 or $9,000. One of the biggest problems that we have right now is with the currently approved budget, we really only have about $80,000 to be able to handle stormwater repair, construction, and capital projects. With the fund transfer from the solid waste, where we transferred the $4 million from solid waste into stormwater, we're able to fund some of the projects like the 3400 West neighborhood storm drain project, but it leaves a number of other projects on that list that we're running short to be able to pay for, especially where we only have $80,000 a year to work from. We spoke with the consultant who's preparing the stormwater master plan, and he identified a number of capital improvement projects for the city in the amount of about $47 million. And of the $47 million, about $17 million of those cannot be used, cannot be constructed using impact fee money. And that includes the 70th South storm drain line that we've talked about. So we're looking for additional options to be able to continue to provide storm drain infrastructure and the funds necessary for repair and construction. And so we present to you several different options of changing the ERU from quarter acre to a number of different options, including the 8,000 square feet, 6,000 square feet, and 4,000 square feet. This provides a number of different increases to the revenue that would only be paid for by the non-residential customers. The main reason for this is although we've got the required detention and the stormwater quality features that are required anywhere within the United States, we found that these particular customers, the residential and the industrial, just generate in volume a lot more water into the system. Even though it's detained you still have that water that you have to take care of. As opposed to a residential structure where almost all of the water is absorbed on site. And so we just present this to you along with the comparisons of what other cities have done, what the current rate means as compared to other cities in total annual revenue, and open up the option to be able to look at that ERU calculation, to be able to fund construction, maintenance, and capital projects within the city. And willing to answer any questions you may have.
Questions from council? Councilmember Higa.
So my question, we've been dealing with stormwater issues for quite a while. Have we done an economic impact on raising the fees on our businesses like this?
I don't understand the question. What kind of economic impact?
Anytime you raise fees or taxes, it impacts a business. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I mean, that gets passed on to the resident or the consumer. Have we done a study on that?
I did. I'm sorry. I did a similar study of what you're asking for, and when we compared a big box residence or a big box store that had about 10 acres in size with our current rate, along with what the surrounding cities have done with the way that they compute the stormwater, and we came in extremely low. In the staff report, I do that economic analysis I believe that you're asking for on what that impact would be if each of those ERUs were changed to a different value. And even with the 4,000 square foot ERU, we are still the cheapest in Salt Lake County.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't make myself clear. I'm looking at the other side of the story. In other words, residents pay for fees and taxes to businesses. And an example, let's take Jordan Landing, that has a lot of impervious area. Am I right? I don't know if you calculated. How will that affect the consumers or consumers that come to our city when all the businesses have to raise their prices because of a new fee on our residents, a higher fee, another tax from my perspective? So economically, I know you're an engineer, so I'm not talking about the bottom where the water goes. I'm talking about the cash flow and how that affects our economy. Have we done a study on that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thanks.
Questions?
If I could on that subject, Councilman Haga, we looked at it when you look at a big box store as the one we looked at. Raising some of this would only raise the annual fee around $3,000 to $4,000, which in a big box store would have a very, very small effect on what would happen. So when you're talking about $4,000 with stores that sell millions, I doubt there would be much within the pricing of that would have to be passed on to residents due to this raise that we're talking about.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for responding. He's our numbers guy. So when it comes to, does this ERU affect churches?
Yes, it would. I do believe churches are part of this.
Have you calculated what a typical state center, for example, would pay?
I've basically calculated what every commercial thing, I don't have the data with me and bring it, but I don't know how much it would be.
Thanks, Ryan.
Councilmember Southwood.
Thank you. Well, I don't know, how particularly relevant it would be to calculate out what effect this has on the price of the product inside of the store. But if you do have to take into account that when we talk about economic development, when we are talking to businesses that want to come into our city, this definitely plays into that. And that is part of what we have to balance here. They go over everything, every single cost. Cost of power, the cost of water, what's the cost of your stormwater. Everything gets calculated. So that's definitely something that we need to consider. So, thank you.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to express appreciation to Councilmember Stoker for, sorry, Mr. Stoker for the time that he spent. No, my apologies. I want to express appreciation for the time spent helping me go through these and get a grasp on these numbers. One of my concerns was when this was originally brought before council almost 4 years ago, I thought our stormwater fees were way out there. Over time, I've understood the history of the stormwater department. It's actually relatively new. It used to be paid for out of the general fund. It just recently became independent. But that said, at the start, we gave it just barely enough funding to accomplish the day-to-day necessities, none of the repairs and maintenance, some of the equipment that was needed. And we've been seeing the effects of that, the need for addressing the funding for some time. When we addressed this, I think it was January, maybe late last year, I actually spent some time on my own trying to compare to some of these other cities to see how we lined up. Because it looks like we're pretty far out of line with what they're doing with the ERUs. And in my own homework, I came to the conclusion that that seemed to be correct. It seemed that we were requiring there's a fixed cost to cover stormwater. And we've had a rate that's just out there for everybody. And the way it's been collected, it seems like it's been the burden's been disproportionately placed on the residents. And they have been subsidizing some of these larger commercial properties. And it's nice to see a proposal to bring us more in line with what's going on in the rest of the valley. When you compare what it would cost to put a Walmart in West Jordan compared to a Walmart somewhere else, West Jordan is a whole lot cheaper on the stormwater side, not enough that it would encourage economic development to come to West Jordan because, hey, stormwater is cheaper, but it's enough to where it impacts the stormwater budget, and we've got to find a way to compensate. Either we charge more to the residents or we equalize the rates based on the amount that people are contributing into the system. And what I had hoped to do was what Mr. Rigby had started describing, where we calculated out the impervious area from each property so we could figure out exactly how much they're contributing to the system and charge them based on that. Working with Mr. Stoker, it's very doable, but I'm not sure I'm willing to pay for more staff to do that. With the assertion and the empirical evidence to back up the statement that he made, that most of those properties fall between, 8 and 23% of the area is not being used. So it's what, 70?
It's between 77 and 92% impervious.
Yeah, with that amount of impervious area, it seems like we could make an adjustment to the stormwater fee and go off a round number. What's been proposed seems to be lower than what's actually being contributed, so we're still not fully charging those commercial properties for their impact to the system, but we're coming closer to being in line, and probably as close as can reasonably be expected without dedicating full-time staff to do the calculations. Anyway, that being said, again, I very much appreciate the information that's been presented to try and bring us more in line with the cities. Even if we were to go with that smallest unit presented, that 4,000 square foot ERU, that's still 30% above the average of the other cities that we're being compared against. So we're still pretty far out of line, but that brings us so much closer. The average of those other cities is 3,091 square feet. So 4,000, we're still pretty high, which means we're still more attractive than anyone else if you're making your decision based solely on stormwater rates. But I would be very much in favor of making the change to the ERU to that 4,000 square foot.
Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor. As I look at this that Mr. Stoker has provided for us, where we show that the annual fee here in West Jordan is $1,873.64, I just had the opportunity of driving down Midvale. Theirs is $9,891.43, and it has not stopped their economic development. If you go down 7th West, they're building restaurants, they're building apartments, they're building all kinds of things, and this stormwater fee has not stopped that. So I think we do need to adjust our stormwater fee.
Motion. Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, I want to echo everything that Councilmember McConaughey said, and then just add that, just the statement that we know publicly, that we mentioned several times, stormwater is probably the most underfunded item we have in our budget. We've seen that with the flooding on 70 South, and we've seen it in flooding in other areas of the city. It's something that needs to be corrected. Unfortunately, it's the happenstance of what's happened. In part, you can blame on the EPA, but part it's just we just need to fix it. And with that being said, I just wanted to add that, the fact that we clearly, this is something, a step. By adjusting the ERU, it equalizes that balance. And essentially, what we've been doing, the way the formula is today, is the residents are subsidizing businesses to be here with respect to stormwater. And this will equalize that front. Thank you.
Councilmember Hagan.
Thanks, Mayor. This goes back to, for me, 10 years ago, when they used to call it the rain tax. You know, water comes down on your roof, washes down into the gutter, into our drains. And I'm a resident. I've had 3 homes, and I paid impact fees to construct stormwater systems from my house into the system. And that's kind of been the way it's been set. We've encountered, unfortunately, some stormwater issues mainly because we have canals. We're a unique city where we have 4 canals run through our city, where stormwater in our older areas is problematic. And we've dealt with that this year as a council. And thanks to our engineering department, have done an excellent job in helping our residents on 3600 West. But I look at taxes and fees, which still is. You know, you can call it what it is, but our businesses are going to pay a fee for water that falls on the ground that runs into our storm system, and that is only translated into the residents pay that fee. It goes into the cost of the product. It's business 101, government 101, raise taxes. From my perspective in the government, when I was elected, it was more, we're going to work on economic development. And having lower fees, from my perspective, if I was a business person, and I was planning to invest in our city, I look at these numbers. They look at these numbers and decide whether they're going to come here or not, because you see small numbers of $6,000, really some of the big businesses, it's some big money, along with just our church, you know, our culture and what they have to pay. So I'm opposed to any kind of fee increase. I wasn't a proponent of this when it was voted in. I've never been a proponent of the increases on the residents, because we already paid for our storm drains. If we're going to pay for storm drains, we need to assess the new businesses that come into our city to upgrade our storm drains so they're compliant. But I think for that's coming into our utility, which is by the way its own utility, is money sufficient to complete the projects that we have planned out for the past 7 years. So I'm opposed to any increases on the impervious areas of existing businesses. I still am a proponent, and I appreciate this engineering department going out to study the impact fees, both for home construction and businesses. And hopefully those numbers come in to where we're in line with other cities too. So I'll be an opponent of this.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. If there's no other discussion, I'm ready to make a motion.
I have a comment first, and then I'll turn to you. First of all, I'm proud that West Orange City is the lowest rate of any of these in this particular study. There are cities outside of this that are lower than us, but this particular study, I believe this motion is anti-economic development. It hurts existing businesses. And you just have to take a short trip along 70th and Redwood Road to see that we do not want to hurt existing businesses. The existing businesses have already paid for their system, and they released the stormwater into our system at a specified rate. Also, I'd like to state that there are other ways to pay for the shortfalls, and nothing is underfunded at this city. We have had a surplus fund balance for 4 years straight over the state allowed surplus fund balance limit. We have money that can be used in the general fund, and we also can bond, something I have proposed at the rates that we have right now for bonding. We could bond and build the entire deficits in our system right now, and the rate of interest is such that we could afford to pay for it without raising any fees or taxes. Now you, Chris. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. And just to preface the motion, my feeling is that the way we're set up right now, businesses being subsidized, not business, but commercial land users are being subsidized by residential. And I believe that this would move to a policy that supports for paying what you use. And because I see that from that perspective, I move that we adopt option number 1 to change the ERU calculation from 1 ERU per quarter acre to 1 ERU per 4,000 square feet, and remove the 20-acre cap on the calculations as is proposed in the staff report.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey and a second by Councilmember Nichols. Discussion to the motion, Councilmember Southworth.
Thank you, Mayor. I am not in favor of this motion, and let me explain this a little bit. I am in favor of it. I understand, I get that we need to fix the problem. We have a big problem. We've gotten to the habit of taking just, earlier I believe it was this year, we took money from our solid waste fund to get to the stormwater. We've moved monies around. I don't like that. I don't think that's transparent. I don't think that's above board. Maybe it's legally, you can or should you sort of thing. And there's definitely a deficit here in stormwater. It needs to be fixed. I'm concerned with the rate at which we're doing. I think it's 64% a jump here, or roughly that. That's huge. Former Councilman Strader was noticed here. Former Councilman members Kilpack and oh my gosh, sorry. Excuse me. Kathy, I'm so sorry. They know. We'll see this. What's going to happen is we'll be back to the table doing this again. And I think going to 4,000 now is too much. I would support going to 8 because I know there is a need. And I think that these enterprises have to pay for themselves. We can't keep robbing from other areas in the city to pay for it. Set them up. If we have too much somewhere else, if we're collecting too much property tax, lower the property tax rate. If we're collecting too much and some of the taxes, lower that, but don't split from one and put the other. If this one is underfunded, increase the funding. We need to do that. But I'm not willing to go so far, so fast, because I know I'm going to be back. I've seen it over and over again. In twilight of the second term here, I've been down this road before, ridden in this rodeo. Our friends out here have done the same thing. I would support, I don't know if I'm making the motion to go to the 4,000 or the 8,000 level for now, anticipating we'll bring in that revenue, we'll look at it, we'll see where we're at. Are we covering our deficits? Do we have too much, too little? We've done this before, let's not do it again, so I will be opposed to the motion as currently stated. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may.
I'm not Mayor.
Councilmember Hagan.
Because we're in debate, I'd like to make a substitute motion that we table this item in lieu of having an economic development study on the impacts of our existing businesses.
I will second that motion. We have a motion by Councilmember Haga, a substitute motion by Councilmember Haga, and a second by Mayor Rolfe. Discussion? Let's vote.
Sorry. Mayor Robb?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice?
No.
Councilmember Nichols?
No.
Councilmember McConaughey?
No.
Councilmember Hanson?
No.
Councilmember Southworth?
No.
The vote fails 2-5.
We're back to the original motion.
Mayor, if I may.
No, we're still in debate, Mayor.
We have did you have a comment?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Please, this will be the last on this issue.
Okay. Just to make a statement, I'm opposed to this. This is a tax increase, not only on businesses, but on residents, and even our residents outside our city. I ran as a council member against raising fees and tax and bolstering our economy, because where we can make it up is in economic development. And I'm going to echo what the mayor has to say. You know, I made an effort to be a student of the budget, and we have a surplus over 20% in our city. We're talking millions of dollars. We do not need to increase expenditures on our businesses and our residents when we are in surpluses, not only in the general fund, but also in the stormwater fund. So I'm opposed to it. It's a fee increase, and for those that are proponents, that's what it is, a fee/tax increase on our businesses and our residents. Thanks, Mayor.
Councilmember Hanson.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't turn my light off.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to respond to the question from Councilmember Southworth, if I'd be willing to change the motion to 8,000 as opposed to 4,000. Short answer, no. Longer answer, there's a couple reasons. Number one, I don't see this as a move made to cover shortfall in budget or to try and bump up funding to stormwater. This is a method to equalize the distribution of the burden of whatever rate's out there. I would fully anticipate that we would come back and we would reevaluate the actual price that's associated with that stormwater fee at a later date. You'll recall we wanted to address that back in January. We held off in May because we knew this conversation was coming. I see it as two pieces. It's almost like, and this will play exactly into what you were saying, Councilmember Southworth, where we want transparency, we want simplicity, but the way our rates are structured right now, it's almost like a Rube Goldberg machine. We've got a bunch of gears here and there, and the output, you've got so many different gears connected. You have to get the arrangement of the gears correct first, and then you can start changing the other inputs that go into the machine. You can start changing the speed, you can start changing the different things that go into it. This is just one of those inputs, that allocation. And I think that by going to the 4,000 square foot, we're still the cheapest in, as far as the RUs are concerned, we're still the cheapest of the cities that were compared. Yes, it is a bit of a jump, but scale-wise, compared to the other fees and assessments that are out there, it's not, when most of the accountants do their book, this change would not be material. But for the stormwater fee, it would be significant to address the deficiencies in the way it's structured and the way the burden is being placed on the commercial property owners versus the residential. And really, that's my biggest reason for sticking with that 4,000. I understand your argument about the rate, and again, I think that's something that still needs to be addressed at a later point in time.
The question has been called.
Mayor, if I may have a very important clarification I need to make.
The question has been called. Is there a second on that? Please vote.
No.
I think it's out of order, Mayor, for staff to be involved with our, other than...
Councilmember Southworth has the floor.
Thank you. I want to commend Councilmember McConaughey. See, former Councilmember Hilton, I almost forgot his name too, so it's okay. Councilman Conley, we've been very consistent on this issue. You are not one that's quick to jump on a tax increase or a fee. You fought against those over and over, but you've been very consistent. On one hand, we've had residents come into this room up in arms because their neighborhoods are flooded, their houses are destroyed, their vehicles have been destroyed from flooding over and over and over again. And it's, I would feel disingenuous on one hand to say, we really feel for you, we're going to help you, we're going to spend these millions of dollars to fix this, but then turn around and say, we're not going to fix the root problem, and the root problem is we don't have the funding sufficient. So I get that. Again, I get that. I think we're going too far. Right now, if we went to 8,000 square feet on there, I mean, that's just south of a 20% increase. That's huge. And so with that, I would make a substitute motion. We'll see if this goes anywhere. A substitute motion that we use option 3 and calculate it by the 1 ERU per 8,000 square feet.
Second that.
We have a motion by Councilmember Southworth and a second by Councilmember Hanson. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to hear what Justin has to say personally. And then when he's done, I do have a comment. Please.
I think at point of order, Mayor, when we're in discussion, only you can acknowledge somebody other than the city manager out of order.
Yes, Lord. Please.
Thank you. I feel to add in the discussion regarding the cap, the 20-acre cap. With regards to that 20-acre cap, it was put in place to protect a very few select number of properties that could be greatly impacted if it were computed without such a cap. The one would be the greatest impact would be to the airport, where their annual fee would go from about $300 to $33,000 a month. Other impacts would be to the golf course, both on 90th and then to the driving range down closer to the river, and then to many public agencies like the South Valley Water Treatment Plant and the Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District. The cap is primarily put in place to protect those from those fees running out of control, which could happen. Staff does not have a recommendation with regards to what the ERU should be set at, but we're very much opposed to the removal of the cap for the impacts that it would have on the airport and for other public agencies.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that, Justin. Just one comment I want to add. It's been suggested that we have a surplus, and we do every year, and there is a surplus, but the argument I keep coming to is a good example with that surplus. That surplus will not be used for stormwater, and this year was an example. We've been promising for 18 months now that the surplus will go to parks, and I'm not going to put Brian on the spot, but he hasn't gotten that, and that was the plan, that he'll get the surplus, and it hasn't happened. I will not hinge myself on that. Now, I just want one clarification on the alternate motion. Did it include, rather, did it keep or did it remove the 20-acre cap?
The motion did not remove the cap.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hagan.
Thanks, Mayor. Can I have permission to ask our financial officer a question?
You have the floor.
All right, if I can put you on that spot. So, because we're talking about a utility here, correct?
Yes.
So what is if I'm putting you on the spot, I'm not trying to, so I apologize in advance. But what is our current fund balance of our stormwater utility?
Off the top of my head, I do not know that. If I were at my desk, I have done most of the quarterly report, which we presented in 2 weeks. I could give you a good answer, but I do not know it off the top of my head.
Okay. We have a balance, though, right now.
We do have a balance, and that's what gets into the tricky part, having a balance versus what we've already committed to contracts. And that's what needs to be. Having a balance there is great if we have a $3 million balance, but if we already have $2 million or $3 million in contracts that we spent in 16, 17, and 18, we truly don't have a fund balance at that point. So that's the part of the clarification that we would need to look at as we go along.
Yeah. The other thing is, again, we look at two different things. Now, impact by new businesses. What's our projection? I know maybe that's, goals and that. What's our projection for 2015 to 2016 on impact fees on stormwater?
Again, I couldn't get that off the top of my head. I believe we collected a little more than we had budgeted last year. I think we budgeted a very similar amount. But to give that number off the top of my head, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah, I put you on the spot, so I apologize. But my comment to you is, again, I think if we're going to make a decision, I'm, again, an opponent of this, you need to understand the financial side of it, too. And if you don't know those numbers, I would challenge you, you can look up on our city webpage, our city budget, it will show you our numbers for 2015, 2016. And then there's also a document that you can look up on the state webpage called the CAFR, the Comprehensive Financial Report, if I said that right, Ryan, that all shows the resources the revenues that we had from 2014. And also on the state webpage, you can look at the impact fees that the city collects for 2014 and 2015. So I would challenge you to do that. I'm opposed to this, again, because I think we have a fund balance and we have the money, and we actually have a great plan by our engineering department to remedy the older system of our storm drain. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Cumming. Thank you, Mayor. 2 points two things I want to bring up. Number one, based on the comments from Mr. Stoker, I know we have another motion, alternative motion that's out there right now, but should we go back to the original motion at some point, I would be willing to amend it to include the cap. And then number two, I do appreciate the comments about balances. My original motion said your motion is still on. Yes, your motion includes it. I'm just saying, should we revert back to the original motion that's out there, which was mine, where it said without the cap? I'd be willing to put the cap back in. Where Councilmember Hager was talking about the balances that are in the fund, again, just to clarify, funds from the general fund cannot be used for the enterprise funds, and while there may be cash available there are still a number of projects to which that funding and additional funding could easily be allocated. And if I may ask, I don't know, Mr. Rigby, or if you're the right person to ask, do you know the total dollar amount? I know you don't like calling them deficiencies, but do you know the rough approximated dollar amount of deficiencies in the stormwater system today?
I'm still working on the master plan, but Dave, do you have that?
More than 17.5 million. Okay. So considerably more than any balance that we may have. But again, I would revert to my earlier comments. I don't see this as meant to bridge that gap, because obviously that's not doable with anything that we do tonight. I want to address the equity allocation of that rate. So, thank you.
Okay, so we're back to the substitute motion. Just to clarification, you acknowledge that we will have to put on anyway, like I stated earlier. Back to the substitute motion. Let's vote.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Councilmember Connier?
No.
Councilmember Hanson?
No.
Councilmember Rice?
No.
Councilmember Hagan?
No.
Councilmember Nichols?
That was interesting. Yes, I was going to vote yes on that. Let's go yes.
Okay. Mayor Robb?
No.
The vote fails 2-5.
Now, we're back to the original motion.
And with that
Would you like to
original
restate
motion,
it? And you've added the...
well, I would like to amend that original motion.
I accept the amendment.
Yeah, so it would be, the motion would be that we adopt option number 1, which changes the ERU calculation from 1 ERU per quarter acre to 1 ERU per 4,000 square feet, and retains the 20-acre cap on the calculations.
And you're okay on that?
Yes. Yes.
Let's vote.
Okay.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Mayor Ralph?
No.
Councilmember Southburn?
No.
Councilmember Conahey?
Aye.
Councilmember Hagan?
No.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice? Aye. Vote passes 4-3.
Business item 9B, discussion and possible action regarding Resolution 15-161 regarding an agreement between the City of West Jordan and Bryce Hatterley to serve as interim city manager and/or assistant city manager with an approximate increase of $44,000.
Mayor?
Yes.
If I may, I would move that we take a 5-minute recess.
Second. I have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey and a second by Councilmember Southworth. All in favor? Aye.
I'll speak to the motion, man.
Oh. Discussion.
I think we have press here, and I think we have a duty to our residents, since they are very interested in this, to continue on. So that's my objection, because the cameras back there represent the 110,000 people that we represent. So I think it's irresponsible to recess when we're in the middle of a major discussion. Thanks, Mayor.
The vote took place, right?
It didn't actually, I didn't get. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
We'll have a 5-minute only recess.
I don't know how detailed I'm going
I had almost and he had me to 100 but I did start having some so I'm on
We'll see.
Have a good day. You'll accept my apology, right? I apologize.
That's okay.
Being rude to you about making sure I would put that meeting.
That's okay. Don't worry.
Too bad the other council members couldn't come.
Should we get Bryce this?
Okay, Bryce?
Thank you. Well, council and the public, I realize with the comments that have been made tonight that I've borrowed my own trouble, and I'll publicly apologize for that right now. Some of the things that I've realized since having an opportunity to not only hear comments made tonight, but made through other social media methods, are that I failed to consider how the public would view this request. And so there's some things that I need to try to at least explain, hoping that that would allow folks to understand a little bit better some of the rationale behind this. First of all, I just want to publicly again make the statement that at the time that the changes were made and I was asked to serve as the interim city manager, that whether there was policy or not, which we do have policy that states that if an employee meets the requirements of the position they're asked to serve in, that there's an out-of-class pay. Now, I do recognize also that there have been employees in the past that have served in positions, out-of-class positions, that have not been paid that payment. And so I'll just make that clear that I'm very well aware of that. But the reason that I agreed not to take any out-of-class pay is, number one, we were trying to work on wages for all of our employees, and I did not want to in any way, shape, or form cause any confusion for employees that I was trying to take any income above and beyond for myself where we needed to take care of our other employees. And I appreciate, and I've made that comment earlier, what you have done for our staff. The second reason that I did that is you were already, as a council, being criticized for fulfilling the remainder of a contract that was almost for a year, and that was going to cost the city that amount of money to finish that out, and I did not want to cause additional harm to you. Now, that doesn't make me a hero or anything, but I just want to state that those are the rationalizations that I put into that decision in turning down any out-of-class pay. The other thing that I failed to do in my memorandum is I took a swag. If you know what that term means, I won't give the full meaning of the acronym, but I estimated on the high side, and I was also using wages from last year. So while it's been stated that my current wage is $115,000 and some change, last year was at around $110,000, and so I put a number together that I was going to ask for, realizing this is a negotiation. There's nothing like being able to negotiate your wage and benefits in front of the entire city. So again, I apologize to the staff or the citizens that they have to listen to all this. But it was estimated considerably higher. I went to our staff today and talked to them about if the proposal that I've thrown out there of going from my current step 6 to a step 13, that would be a $24,000 change in pay, and my estimate for the overhead was high. It would actually be 21.72% because insurance and everything else is already in there, and that wouldn't change. So that would be a $5,227 addition for the overhead, for a total of $29,292. Now, I just want to make it very clear, I've never expected you as a council to just say, sure, Bryce, there you go, that's the amount you asked for, that's what you get. So I've allowed some room for negotiation if that's what we're doing. The next item that I want to bring out is that I realize that because of the way the staff report was written, there's an air of confusion that I possibly might be asking for the city manager's wage or the interim city manager's wage. The fact is that the numbers that I'm proposing come clearly from our current step and grade chart, and they are all for the assistant city manager wage. The city manager, when they left, was making higher than step 14 for the assistant city manager. So I'm still proposing that the range of the wage that I'm asking for is within the assistant city manager. And I'm willing to do that as the interim city manager, and if I go back to the assistant city manager, it would still be within that range. I also would just like to point out that during this last year, my family and I have incurred many challenges with my schedule that I didn't anticipate having. Fulfilling both the city manager and assistant city manager time frame has been very time consuming. It's caused me to miss a lot of family time and to work many, many hours. I consistently work over 40 hours, even on weeks when I only am here for 4 days. I'm consistently over 40 hours. And calculating if for the next 5 months I use my vacation time at the same rate that I've been using it, which is very little, I stand to lose approximately $9,000 of the user lose that would just be zeroed out or taken down to the maximum amount at the end of the year. And that's just life, but I just want it factually be known that with our policy, again, that would be time that I would be able to spend with my family, and I do worry about that. Now, last year, I appreciate the fact that the mayor went to bat for myself and a few other employees that were asked to work considerable overtime, and we were paid out for some of the vacation that we weren't able to use. And so I acknowledge that and I appreciate that. So with that being said, I just want to again state all that I'm asking for is to create some balance, to ask for a wage within the assistant city manager range that I feel is fair, but I realize I'm totally open to negotiate at that, and ask if there's any other questions with the ordinances proposed or the resolutions proposed.
Questions from council? Councilmember Hagan.
Thanks for explaining that in a little more detail. That's, and I'm going to support some of the things you said. You know, I think the number's right as far as your base wage. And I've done a little research. You know, I think for a city of our size, for even an assistant city manager, you're lower, even with your 5% bonus. So I'm going to give you that. And with that said, you know, I think we all learned from other instances that we have to have a budget amendment to make this happen. And I think I would be a proponent to help out with that. I think your service to the city is well noted. There's ups and downs, you know. There's a lot of commendable things that you've achieved with us as a council. So as far as my comments to you, I'm more of a proponent of this if we do it the proper way, like our financial officer says, if we do a budget amendment so we have that money there, and I think we have the money, that we as a council body, if there's a majority, give you a bump. And we can compare other cities, because really I have, you know, I've done some due diligence, and that wage is lower comparable based on the city assistant city manager. So even on that title, I think there's some more compensation due.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I beat Councilman Southworth by about half a second. Just briefly, I think what I would like to say on this subject, this is not a debate for me. It's not a question, I guess, to Bryce, but it's rather just a statement that the issue before me has nothing to do with the fact that you're the acting city manager. It has everything to do with the fact that you're the assistant city manager, and I think you've done a good job in that role, and that a raise is warranted and also expected. All other things set aside, I think it's reasonable, and he's been a valuable asset to the team. He has progressed the city, in my view, and I just think it's the right thing to do. I probably would not be the one in favor to say go all the way to $140,000 annually, but I would be okay to consider between $130,000 and $135,000. That's personally what I would be willing to say. Again, it's not anything to do with it as the acting city manager. This is where I want him to be as an assistant city manager. That's where I would fully expect him to be when we have a new city manager in place.
Councilmember Southwick. Bryce, I have to say you almost deserve it for the fact that you got out here not in front of all of us and the public with the news cameras and everything.
I asked him to get my good side, so...
You know, only in government would you have to do something like this to talk about your own salary. How uncomfortable is that? But I want to say thank you for your service, thank you for the team you have behind you and everything that's been taking place under some difficult circumstances dealing with the selling loss and everything else that goes on inside of the city. There's always challenges that take place, and I think you've done a commendable job. I would be very willing, hats off to Councilman Haga for the things he said. He's correct there. You have done an excellent job. That pay needs to reflect that. I also believe, I know in the past, we've had people fill in for interim city manager, and I think that's an oversight that we didn't bonus. There's two in this room right now, and I feel bad, but I don't think that the councils at that time did that. And that's something we need to consider. We need to look back and say, okay, time served, a bonus commensurate, that differential pay for the time that you've been here. It's been a year plus now, I think. We need to look back and say, okay, what's the difference between those pays? You've done the work. You've taken all of that weight on your shoulders, and so any of us would expect that or hope to have that in any job that we did. And so I think that's only fair as well. So in favor of the increase, we can work on those numbers. I don't know if we need to do that tonight. I don't know what the idea is here, but just wanted to express my support and gratitude.
Within your packet, you have the step and grade chart towards the back of the packet, and it would have all of the ranges in range 90, which is the assistant city manager. So you can see it has an hourly rate, and then below it is the annual salary for 2,080 hours. I did identify that the calculations I gave you for the $29,000 total wages and benefits comes from step 13. And then I believe Councilmember Nichols, you mentioned some ranges between 130 and 135. That could be anywhere from step 10 at 128 to 11 to step 12, 135, 366. So what we'd want to do is tie it to one of those steps so that we keep everything. And that was another thing that I failed to do. Is the first time that I submitted this, I didn't tie it to the step and grade. So this time I realized I needed to do that so we keep it in harmony.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you, Mayor. And first of all, Bryce, I do want to say thank you for all that you've done, all that you've been doing, that you continue to do. I know there are a lot of demands, and obviously it's not easy to come in a public forum and discuss compensation. It's a very personal and touchy issue. I appreciate you coming forward to do that. That said, please don't take any of my comments personally. They're not directed towards you. I think I've shared most of these ideas with you one-on-one anyway, but I want to be able to share them in the forum with the rest of the council able to hear, because there are a couple of concerns that I have. Number one, I share the concern, I believe it was former council member Hilton brought it up about timing. And with so many other things going on, I don't know that now's the right time. Although I would be open to, and I mentioned this in a prior meeting, I would be open to discuss compensation. I appreciate what was spoken from the dais earlier about going back to review some of the others who have served in that capacity and not received any additional compensation for all the work and stress and effort that goes into filling into that capacity. I think that's something we should do. I think If somebody is performing the effort, especially for that executive position, it's something very, very demanding, and we need to review and reflect that. At the same time, I very much worry about what sort of precedent that sets. We have a number of people throughout the city who are filling in positions that are above their grade, and it happens on a regular basis. We currently have somebody who's filling in as the head of legal. We have a responsibility for our development department where we had a director level position leave, and then we did not refill that position, rather we delegated those responsibilities among the department. I worry that we would set a precedent that could have a ripple effect, and I want to make sure that we study that out before we take any action. I also have concerns about some of the specifics in there. For example, the 6 months severance agreement, should there be a termination without cause, where the city manager is serving at the will of the council. I really struggle to put a severance clause in there. And then I believe there was also a mention tying it back to the employee handbook, saying in addition to what's in the employee handbook. And the employee handbook does give an option for 6 months of severance as well. So it looks like potential for possibly 12 months, and I really, really struggle with that. Additionally, it suggests that to make a change would require a supermajority of the council, and I very much struggle with that item that was put in there. Number of concerns about that, especially when you look at the potential. Right now, we're looking for a permanent person to sit in that position, and if that person were not to be you, but were to be somebody else, they would have the rights to determine who sits in which seat within the city, and they can change staff as they feel appropriate. I would not want to tie their hands or future council's hands by requiring something like this. So I have significant concern with that supermajority clause that was in there. And again, none of my comments were personal. I very much appreciate the work that you've done. I know I've only seen a small amount of the issues that come across your desk, and I can appreciate the toll that it takes on you and your family. And I know it's a significant sacrifice. I know it's not something that's seen by everybody. I know we only see a small piece. And I very much appreciate that. However, I do have concerns, and some of those which I enumerated today, so I really am not comfortable proceeding with what's been proposed. Thank you.
Councilmember Southwood.
I'll have a motion if we're ready for one.
That would be in order.
Okay. And I'll note this and take the consent of the council here if we have other ideas, but I would move that we approve, what is this, Resolution 15-161 with the following changes. And number 3, that the range be set at 90, step 11. That we strike the term supermajority from, what was that at, Councilman?
2A.
2A. And that we add, at the conclusion of your service as interim city manager, that the time served, that differential pay be calculated, and that be bonus to Mr. Hatterley at that time. And any other comment that may be necessary.
Can I just add an amendment to that? I don't have an opposition to that, other than I do believe that we have to have a budget amendment to fund that kind of money.
And if it's so be, then I'll add this, so that the staff and our financial team, if it's so be that we need to have a budget amendment, then that be brought towards us. And if there's no other comment, then that would be the end of the motion.
We have a motion. A motion by Councilmember Southworth and a second by Councilmember Hagan. Discussion of the motion. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you. My last concern, I mentioned I'd be okay moving forward, doing something with compensation. I think we're starting to go the right direction with what's been proposed. I don't necessarily see a need to contractualize that. I think it opens up for a world of problems. I would rather see just a simple budget adjustment and move forward with that rather than trying to do it through a resolution and a contract that, with all the other things going on, could get very, very messy. And I say that, please note that as I say that, I still have the same reservations which I shared earlier, but in regard to the specific motion, that would be my biggest concern. I would rather not see that done as a resolution. Thank you.
Councilmember Southwood?
Thank you. Everybody understands the situation that we all find ourselves in, the political turmoil that may be about, and I'll tell you, it feels good to see the type of collaboration that just took place on this dais.
Councilmember Nichols?
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, I just want to address, again, I want to emphasize, I want to support this motion on the basis, or I want to make sure that's very clear, I don't support it because he's the acting city manager. It's because I fully support him as an assistant city manager, and this is where I want his salary to be in that role. And I'm very grateful that he's filling in as the acting city manager, and would expect him to have a bonus for such in the future, as we failed to do in past times.
Councilmember Hagan?
Because I really do appreciate the transparency of this. I mean, and it takes somebody like this gentleman to come in front of a seven-member body to ask for this. I do agree, but I think still process requires a budget amendment before the resolution can be passed.
Would it be okay if we discuss that for just a moment?
I would.
Obviously, we need to have Mr. Bradshaw weigh in on this, but there are multiple times during the year when you authorize expenses that the budget has not been amended. Ryan makes a notation of that, and then he brings back a budget amendment 2 or 3 times during the year. And so what I would say is that because you have not hired a city manager and the wages within that whole entire budget have not been expended, I believe there will be sufficient funding before the next budget amendment that would be able to fund this, and then it could be amended at a future date when you do a list of items all at the same time. Ryan, have I misrepresented anything there?
No, at this point we have budgeted for both a city manager and an assistant city manager within the current budget, and we only have one person in those 2 positions. We would have some budget left over. We would want to still do, like I said, the budget amendment to make things happen, but we have in the past moved forward with things before the budget amendment took place. That's been a practice within the city with other issues as it comes through. So we get police grants, that they get the money, and then we come back a couple months later and do a budget amendment, but they move forward with those things until that point.
And then procedurally, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Just one other thing that
Go ahead.
I would like to do, just to make sure we've covered all our bases. I shared an ordinance with the mayor, a section of the state code with the mayor tonight that talks about amendments to salary schedules and such. We did table that tonight to wait and see how some of the things played out. And so the other thing that I would just demand of myself and of our staff is that we would not make these retroactive payments or raise the wage until we brought the salary schedule forward with the reflected changes. So again, I want to make it very clear to you and the public that I would not receive a dime of any increase until we did follow through on the statutory requirements of the state law on you passing a salary schedule. So that would be on the next meeting, and my pay would, I wouldn't receive anything until after that. But I'm assuming where I had made the comment in the resolution for retroactivity, that would come into effect after we do these other statutory things. Is that my understanding? And the other thing, I have to ask a question. I failed to hear Councilmember Southworth. I think you were the one that proposed a range. I didn't hear that. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, just continue on the budget amendment process. 4 or 5 precedents. Sorry, Ryan, but even my youth theater had to come and do a $5,000 amendment, on their budget. And we are talking about a city manager's budget that I'm sure we have, but in light, which some council members, because they weren't in that meeting, there's some action happening on that front, and that budget we need to say stays secure. I can't divulge the details. But as far as the city assistant city manager, which I still think you deserve more compensation. I think it still should be at will, and after we have a budget amendment with a public hearing, so our residents can talk to us about it, and we stay totally transparent with your compensation. But again, I'm a proponent of it. It's just about making sure we do it correctly, as we've done all budget changes. And this is specific, I'm pretty sure, as of, you'll find out in 10 days, subject to the assistant city manager job. So that's the budget we're looking at.
If I could, just to clarify, I mean, we could make this resolution so that the wage would not take effect until a budget amendment did happen. We could also, if you wanted to, do something very similar, which we did with the police before, and not pay Mr. Hatterley until the budget amendment is done, but also retroactive it back to another date if we wanted to. So not change anything that's going on right now until we do a budget amendment. If we do a budget amendment in a couple months, we could do that and then do a retroactive thing very similar to what we did when we did the salary resolution with the police.
I have no objection to that.
I'm speaking against the motion. We have a lot of situations in the city where our employees are filling in out of class, not unless we are willing to fix all inequalities in the city. Would I be willing to do this at this time? We are weeks away from naming a city manager. No one here knows who that is yet, but it will be coming very soon. Let's vote.
Mayor, can I have the motion, just because it was suggested we have an amendment to the motion by our financial officer. Can you read that to me again, Councilman?
Okay. Absolutely. I move to approve, what is it, B? 15-61 with the following changes. We strike, again, help me, Councilman McConaughey, it was supermajority from 2A, I believe. We set the pay at 90, step 13, range 90, step 13, excuse me.
13, step 13.
Step 11, excuse me, it is 11. I'm reading it here, it says 13, but I was changing it to 11. I apologize. And then Councilman Hager's suggestion that if a budget amendment is needed, that be brought back as soon as reasonably possible.
Well, is that required, Ryan? I'm pretty sure.
If required, I think that's how you said it.
Okay.
So I believe, that, and I don't think there were any other, was there anything else that we changed?
The bonus at the conclusion of the...
Oh, and we added that bonus at the conclusion of services interim city manager, which is not at this point. It will be sometime here in the near future, hopefully, when we hire a full-time city manager. And I believe that was all.
Did your motion intend to address my concern regarding severance?
What was that concern, Councilman? I'll tell you. I don't remember.
This...
You feel about the 6 months, if I'm not...
6 month severance plus what's allowed in the employee handbook. The employee handbook says up to 6 months, depending on what the city manager says, so he could potentially improve himself up to a year.
You tell me what you want that to say.
I think that's dangerous because I already said I'd like to see the whole thing go. I would like to strike everything in that whole section in relation to severance.
Okay, so I mean, is...
That said, I would still I still speak against the motion, but I would hope that you would at least include that.
Where's that section?
That would be 2A, would be stricken.
Would it be acceptable to offer a not to exceed 6 months or something of that nature? If you recall, it's even been suggested by our contract attorneys that because some of these things haven't been outlined in other employment situations, it has a potential of causing some confusion later on.
Councilman, does that cover your concerns?
No, but again, I spoke against the motion, and I will still be voting against it. So it's up to you as to how far you want to proceed chasing that down.
So can we have one more clarification of what the motion is, just so everyone's on?
Yes, sir. Approval of Resolution 15-61 with the following changes. That the range be 90 step 11. That the words supermajority be removed from Section 2A. That a bonus be provided to Mr. Hatterley at the end of his service as interim city manager. And that bonus will equate to the differential between his pay and that of the former city manager over the time served. And I believe that's it.
So very clear?
I did find that one sentence regarding severance, if you would like to consider adding that.
I don't know, does it change your vote?
No.
It's
the sentence that says, it's in section 2 under terms, paragraph A, that says, the severance payment shall be in addition to the separation pay to which the employee is entitled pursuant to the West Jordan Employee Handbook.
But that should be consistent with West Jordan City Employee Handbook policy.
And the West Jordan, well, that's, okay, consistent with, or perhaps not in excess of.
If not in excess. And to be negotiated by Mr. Hamlin and the council if it would be. You don't want to have, you still need to have that option, so. No, that's even worse, right? Not even water.
Yeah, it is.
So striking that where it says the 6 months, and that should be consistent with the West Jordan City Employee Handbook. Okay, and that allows for what you don't need my last comment.
And the second is still, you're still going to hold the second? Let's vote.
Councilmember Rice? Aye. Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Mayor Robb?
No.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
No.
The vote passes 5-2 in favor.
Thank you very much, council. I appreciate the opportunity to work with you.
Mayor?
Yes.
If I may, point of personal privilege. I just want to say thank you to Councilmember Southworth for working on me with some of the language, even knowing full well I was going to vote against it. I appreciate trying to find an accommodation in there, and thank you.
Feels good, we're together.
Even when we disagree.
Okay. Moving right along, we are now going to recess city council meeting, if I can get a motion, and we were supposed to do
A redevelopment.
a redevelopment agency at the beginning, and there's been those in the audience waiting for this. So before we go back to the consent items, we're going to convene the redevelopment agency meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilmember Southworth and a second by Councilmember McConaughey. Do we need a roll call vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none? I will call to order the redevelopment agency meeting of August 12, 2015. Business item 2A, approve the minutes of June 10th as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a motion by Councilmember Southworth and a second by Councilmember McConaughey. Discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Board Member Haga?
Yeah.
Board Member Rice? Aye. Board Member McConaughey?
Aye.
Board Member Southworth?
Aye.
Board Member Nichols?
Yes.
Chair Robb?
Yes.
Board Member Hanson?
Yes.
Vote passes 7 in favor.
Item 2B, discussion and possible action regarding resolution number 172, resolution number 173, 174, 175, 176, and 177, authorizing the chair to execute amended interlocal agreements with Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District, South Salt Lake Valley Mosquito Abatement District, Salt Lake County, Central Utah Water Conservancy District, City of West Jordan, and the Jordan School District regarding the Community Development Project Area, Jordan Valley Station. David.
Yes, this is a resolution that would ratify the interlocal agreement for the Jordan Valley Station, DOD. Jeremy Olson is here for any questions.
Questions from council? Councilmember Nichols. Board Member Nichols.
I just have a motion when we're ready.
That would be in order.
I move to approve resolutions 172 through 177.
Second.
I have a motion by Board Member Nichols and a second by Board Member Hanson. Discussion to the motion? Let's vote.
Board Member McConaughey?
Aye.
Board Member Hanson?
Yes.
Board Member Haga?
Yes.
Chair Ralph?
Yes.
Board Member Southworth?
Aye.
Board Member Rice?
Aye.
Board Member Nichols?
Yes.
The vote passes 7 in favor.
We need a motion to adjourn the redevelopment agency meeting and reconvene the city council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Board Member McConaughey and a second by Board Member Nichols. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. Okay, business item 7C was tabled until next meeting. So we will go back to the consent items. Consent item A. Approve the minutes of July 22nd, 2015.
Thanks, Mayor. I bring this back because for one thing, I was interrupted, but this was a statement I made publicly talking about some actions in our public discourse here on the dais with our council member, and I won't go into the details concerning allegations, make sure we get that right, allegations of possible harassment. And I cited Utah State Law Anti-Discrimination Act. And why I bring that up tonight, because I was challenged tonight by a contract attorney for making this statement. And I stood up, they won't tell you what I said, and I walked out. So that's what it's about. An attorney upset that I want transparency in our city. I want, if it requires justice, I want justice on both ends of whatever this is being investigated, which are, again, details I can't disclose because of confidentiality. But there is an investigation. I am the one that filed with the Human Resources investigation. And it was based on an email from myself. I'm, again, reading my statement. And again, I was challenged by a legal attorney in our meeting, our closed-door meeting, on a public statement that I made. I'm offended. I would ask the city manager to ask this contract attorney to apologize to me. I shouldn't have to make any comment about anything I do in public. And again, all I did was stood up and walked out. And most all of you saw me here. So I do want these minutes. I think they need to be corrected. So I move that we table these minutes and have them corrected to word for my statement.
I'll second that. A motion by Councilmember Hagan, a second by Mayor Rolfe. Discussion of the motion. Councilmember Nichols.
I looked at the minutes. It actually quotes and then kind of paraphrases. I've got no issues with it. I've got an alternate motion just to pass the minutes as is, so we move on.
Do you have a substitute motion?
Point of clarification there. and from our honorable clerk. Do minutes have to match exactly the verbiage from our council meetings?
No, they do not. It can be a summary.
Okay.
Can I ask you a quick
I
question?
second that motion, by the way.
I don't want to debate, I just wanted a question.
Second substitute motion.
Were you addressing the July 22nd minutes? Because I can't find anywhere where it addresses what you're talking about. But it was word for word. The discussion with Councilmember Southworth was word for word.
That was, I
Okay,
think that was a different
conversation?
conversation you're thinking about.
All right, okay.
Okay, we have a
Okay, so-
motion by Councilmember Nichols and a second by Councilmember Southworth on a substitute motion. Discussion. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to point out that at the bottom of every copy of the minutes, it has the paragraph, "The contents of the minutes is not intended, nor are they submitted as a verbatim transcription of the meeting. These minutes are a brief overview of what occurred at the meeting." And that being said, I would support the motion to adopt the minutes as presented.
Councilmember Haga.
Is that a motion from you? So, at this point, I'm going to defer to our honorable clerk and accept whatever motion to move this forward. It's clear what I said, it was on the agenda, so I just want to make sure our minutes lined up and to justify some allegations made by some council members to my left about some kind of accusation I had from a contracted attorney in one of our closed-door meetings. So that's all I have. If I'm not so concerned because I made the statement, it is in recording. Thank you, Mayor.
Let's vote.
Mayor Roth?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
No.
Councilmember Rice? Aye. Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
The vote passes 6-1 in favor.
Consent item D, approve resolution 15-147 ratifying the city council decision to fill a building inspector position in the Development Services Department with a pay scale between $77,600 and $103,300.
Thank you. Looking at this pay scale and thinking of a building inspector, I am not the individual to make a determination on whether this pay is right or not, but it really seemed out of place to me. I don't know what the pay scale should be, what the competitive rate is for a building inspector, but it seemed to be out of proportion to a lot of positions within the city that require levels of education and responsibility. Not that this does not. This is a very significant issue. Our inspectors have to be good at what they do. But I just wanted to bring that up. I don't know if there's a comment. We don't need to hash that out tonight. But I would suggest that I would make a motion that we table this until our next council meeting for staff to review that. If you come back with the same determination, that's fine, but at least a review. Thank you. And that was a motion to table it to the next council meeting. Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Southworth and a second by Councilmember Nichols. Discussion of the motion, Councilmember Hanson.
Yes, is this a building inspector that goes out just on buildings to do the electrical, the plumbing, the mechanical, that type of thing? Because the jobs we have advertised don't pay this kind of money. Or is this a different type of an engineering inspector or something different than a building inspector?
Human Resources has done research on a Class 3 inspector, which covers everything. And this falls within that range. It's most likely that we won't start at the top of the range.
So they're just certified in all of the...
But this is a range, and this is very comparable to what's out there in the market. And we need to be competitive to get a good inspector, and we are in dire need of this with all the development that's coming up.
Thank you.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple questions on this one. When we were discussing the salary schedule a while ago, we were asked if we could at least approve the inspector positions that were there. I do notice that right now there on the city website there is a listing for combination inspector 2 or 3. Is this number 2 of those positions and the 2 or 3 number 1? Or how does this come into play with what was requested earlier?
Could I answer that?
I hope so.
Okay, so first of all, I have the whole salary schedule right here for our different classes, and so the reason why we're doing this is the belt and suspenders. At the last meeting, the mayor said we need to get an inspector hired. Is everybody okay if we go ahead and get started on that? So we have placed an advertisement with that goodwill. What I would like to do is, if there's a question on the wage, and looking here at our salary schedule, I do have that same question. So what I would like to do is that if we go ahead, what I'm thinking is that this fiscal impact, again, the confusion is it's not their wage, it's their wage and benefits included, because that's the full fiscal impact of the position. So we will not pay the employee outside of the grade 61 that's identified in our wage scale. I'm guessing, and I will work with our staff to make sure in the future we don't create this confusion. We will show the wage range and the benefits separate numbers, because there's no way that we would be paying a $77,000 salary. So
If you wouldn't mind doing that, and then we'll table this for our next council meeting, bring that back. If it's the same, that's okay, as long as we look through and we say, okay, that's the case, then just put it back in consent again.
Okay, here's the challenge. We have placed that advertisement based on the last meeting that was approximately 3 weeks ago. That will close this next week or so. So there's the whole question and quandary then of whether or not we can interview and offer a job to anyone that's not been officially approved. And the reason I did this was to cover everybody's base, that if later on an auditor looked or you looked and said, how come you hired this person? There's no council action. This is the council action. So what I would suggest is if you would be willing to just make a statement in your motion rather than this, that you would just say that it be paid in accordance with the step and grade for a grade 61 at that wage, then that would remove the question of whether we would have to stick with that.
I would like to make a substitute motion. I believe that we should approve Resolution 15-147 at a grade 61, and then I have a comment. That is the motion. I have a motion. Okay, we have a motion by Mayor Rolfe and a second by Councilmember Haga. We have needed this position since the first of the year. We gave direction to staff last council meeting. I'll stand by Bryce's statement. And we need to be competitive within the marketplace. There are not a lot of applications for this particular job. And I think that we as a council need to allow staff to move forward immediately on this. With that, comments. Councilman Haga.
Thank you, Mayor. I would abstain from a vote on this due to a potential perception of conflict of interest. I've already discussed this with the city manager and with the recorder. Our HR department was, he's out until the 17th. So while I could be in favor of tabling, since that's not really taking any action, any motion to go one way or the other, I will abstain from.
Okay, let's vote on the substitute motion. Oh, Councilmember Southwood.
Mayor, I don't, that motion's fine, but would you accept a slight amendment being that proved upon the condition that staff double check that that range is consistent with what it should be? It probably is. Our HR staff is very good. It just caught my eye, and if I look a little out of place, but based on that, now if they find out it's not consistent, bring it back. If it is, go with it.
I will accept that as a amendment to my motion, and Councilmember Haga will accept that as a second as well. It's funny, I'm typically the one that was accused of meddling too much in staff. It's amazing. Let's go.
Councilmember Southworth.
Aye.
Councilmember McConaughey. Oh, sorry, yes. Okay. Councilmember Hanson.
Yes.
Councilmember Rice.
Aye.
Councilmember Haga.
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols.
Yes.
Mayor Robb.
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
Consent item K. Approve Resolution 15-1254, authorizing staff to approve the road closure plan, allowing a 3-week road closure on 8200 South to accommodate construction of a new 8-inch sanitary sewer main. Wendell Reagan.
That's actually my item there, and I would say move to approve. I apologize.
I'll second that. Councilmember Southworth, motion seconded by Mayor Rolfe. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Hanson.
Yes.
Mayor Robb.
Yes.
Councilmember Southworth.
Aye.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Councilmember Haga.
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols.
Yes.
Councilmember Rice.
Aye.
The vote passes 7 in favor.
Consent item P, approve resolution 15-159, authorizing the mayor to execute a settlement agreement and release of all claims regarding pending litigation in an amount of $125,000, case number 215-CB-00309-ECW. Hopewell versus Adam. Councilmember.
Mayor, can I group both P and Q? Because I am a proponent of this. I just wanted to pull this and draw attention to it, because we shouldn't have to hide from the fact that we've made a settlement. We actually now have competent legal advice that has directed the council on how to approach this. What I want to bring out is these 2 instances involve our police officers, and I want to say affirmatively this has nothing to do with the quality of our police department. This has to do with really saving money from paying attorneys. But in reality, I believe, from all the things I've read, and they are closed-door type subjects, this is public record, but I don't want our officers out there thinking the council, at least this council person, does not support them 100%. We do. I move to approve consent item P and Q, Mayor.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Haga and a second by Councilmember Southworth. Discussion on the motion? Before we vote, I would state that the entire council believes exactly what you stated about our police department. Let's vote.
Councilmember Rice.
Aye.
Councilmember Southworth.
Amen, brother, and yes.
Okay, nominate those 3. Mayor Robb.
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols.
Yes.
Councilmember Hanson.
Yes.
Councilmember Haga.
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Vote passes 7 in favor.
Consent item Q, approve resolution. Sorry. I guess for that, yes. City Manager.
Mayor, if I could just share one piece of information. I was trying to think where I could look for the wages, and I looked on our city website for employment, and the positions for grade 2 and grade 3 building inspectors, and the hourly wage match exactly to our step and grade system. So anything above and beyond that is, in fact, the overhead and other things that would go with that. So we will be paying consistently with what's been done to our salary survey and nothing more than that. So, yeah, that higher number that you're seeing is total compensation with all of the benefits and things. So
So you're
would you like to know the numbers? Just
I
the
think we're
range?
free to go. I think that the council.
Let me know if you're interested. Thank you.
Councilmember Hanson.
Yes, are we in the remarks area now?
We are, yes.
Okay. I have been on the Community of Councils since I took office in 2012. That has now been 3.5 years. And I was elected to the COG earlier this year. So I am asking that we replace me on the Community of Councils and meet once a month as does the COG. And I would like to recommend Sophie if there is nobody else that is interested in the position. She has gone in my place at times when I couldn't go. I would accept that.
Any objection to that?
Well, Mayor, I guess a statement. We have to do a nomination and actually have an agenda item, I'm pretty sure, to do this because it's in our council rules. So we should agendize it.
I'm just saying, so you're going to propose to it, yes, we can bring it back.
I can put that on the agenda. Thank you.
Okay. You got that, Mary? Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. Real briefly, there were a couple statements this evening that were made during public comments, and I don't want to humiliate those folks at all. It's purely just a matter of fact, and I just wanted to present it specific to our form of government. A few statements relative to, and by no means is this demeaning you as the mayor. A statement was made that the mayor position in our form of government as a CEO that is actually factually incorrect. The mayor is the chief ceremonial officer of our city, and that is the title used in state code. I believe what that person was looking at was municipal code for other cities, other forms of government. Additionally, a statement was made with respect to code that's not being cited, or the code that was invalid because it's not in there, whereas in fact this is our form of government. I'm quoting from state code. As used in this subsection, council manager form of government provided for in the laws of Utah 1977, Chapter 48, that cannot be adopted without board approval. It goes on and on. But it says that in our case, a municipality operating on May 4, 2008, under the council manager form of government shall continue to operate in that form of government and will be in accordance to, this is the important part, all that blabber for this part, according to the applicable provisions of the laws of Utah 1977, Chapter 48. We all understand that, but it's very important for the public to understand that our form of government is not in our current books. It is not there. So it's very important for us to get that verbiage from 1977, in my opinion, and this idea that we postponed, bring it back in there so that our residents can see the code that pertains to our city. But thank you, Mayor, for the time.
I would just add to that you have to go back to the 1977 code book to find that.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's been we were only grandfathered into this form of government. It's not approved as a form of government today. Councilmember Southwood.
Thank you. I have a request that came to me by a few citizens in relation to rural residential and animals that are contained there that I want, if there's not a majority disagreement within the council, wanted to add to the animal ordinance for rural residential only, to add pigs equal to the number of points of a horse or a cow. So that on a half acre you'd be limited to 2 and 2 only. An animal that is probably a fifth the size of a horse or a cow. But I have been asked to, so if there's not a majority disagreement with that, if we can start the process, have our staff take that through planning commission and council to add that verbiage to the animal ordinance.
I would be opposed to that. FDA zoning would be fine with me to keep that swine in the code, but not for rural residential, because we have the smallest rural residential half-acre lots, and swine would not be acceptable in a neighborhood.
And I'm not saying whether it or not. I know for a fact that it's happening in various places, and I'd like to take an opportunity to go look at those and study that out and see what that looks like. I just can't imagine.
Are you asking for council action, Councilman?
No, sir, I'm not. I am asking if there is not a majority of disagreement, if the staff would start that process through the planning commission and bring that eventually to the city council. Thank you.
So do you have a majority to direct staff on that issue?
Everyone's in favor of it, with the exception of me. Councilmember Hanson.
I would rather see, if we're going to bring this forward, I'd rather see that it be with a conditional use permit. That's what is required in the ag zone, and that's what we should require in the rural if we're going to allow it in the rural.
And that can be part of the research we do, and in part of that process. Not saying that would exclude it or include it, but that could be part of that.
That way the neighbors are aware that someone may be getting swine. I know I'm on an acre and I don't want swine next door to me. So
Certainly.
I would like it so that the neighbors are totally aware that is what's happening. Thank you.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Thank you, Mayor. Kind of interesting, I actually got a message from somebody earlier today asking for something similar. Not about swine, but about other livestock. And it wasn't long ago that we had questions about why we allow some animals and not others. I think turkeys were the ones that came up in particular. I would be okay opening that up a little bit further with the Planning Commission and not just necessarily swine, but other equivalent animals. For example, a yak is very similar to a horse or a cow, things like that. I would be okay if we were to consider that a little bit more broadly. And
go ahead.
Sorry, the second remark I wanted to make was some clarification from...
Are you making a remark on what Councilman Southward remarked already?
No, this was a separate...
Because that's what they're doing.
He has a floor.
Oh, okay. So the other thing I wanted to ask for a quick clarification on, public hearing 8B, legal, Karen, I believe you indicated we don't need to have another public hearing on this one?
When you have a public hearing and then you continue the item to a future date, you don't have to repeat the public hearing.
I just want some clarification on that because we haven't held the public hearing. It was agendized, then we continued it to today, and now it's further up. So we haven't held it yet. So I just wanted to double check to make sure that, yes, we still need to have the public hearing.
So you're continuing it to hold the public hearing? Oh,
That
I'm
was
sorry.
my
I
understanding. I just want to make sure there
I'm
was no
sorry.
discrepancy with the legal.
I'm sorry, I did not understand the question.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, those were my two remarks. Number one, support for the evaluation of animals. Number two, clarified hearing for 8B. Thank you.
Councilmember Hagan?
Yeah, Mayor, just a point of clarification. These are not my remarks. I just wanted to, because everybody else sound up on this. Are we doing a straw poll on the remarks of Councilman Southworth?
We're giving direction to staff.
Okay.
There's no official action. We're giving direction to staff to research it and bring it back based on what you requested.
Correct.
Unless there was a unanimous objection, that's what staff's direction is.
All right. Thank you, Mayor.
Please, Councilmember Southwood.
If there are no further remarks,
Oh, I have remarks. So
then I will hold my tongue.
I have
Please.
remarks. Just to reiterate on our form of government, you know, we have a legislator in our audience, and, you know, we're governed by a constitution called the Utah State Constitution. And the only way you can change your form of government is by the vote of the people. That's in our constitution. And just to reference back to 2008, because I have it memorized, the mayor is the chief officer of the city. He's the presiding member of the council. He is a council member. He's to officiate on anything else. I'm quoting verbatim, by the way. Anything outside of our city, and sign all legal documents as prescribed by the council or adopted by the council. That law has not gone away just because it was there before you were born, perhaps. That's still there. The legislators just left it there because we as a city have not allowed our residents to change their form of government to a new form that the legislators would like us to adopt. So, you know, the CEO is the city manager, and in our case, the interim city manager, his duties are to follow the direction of the council, consent of the council as a majority in public meetings, in my opinion, instead of emails, so we conform to the Open Meetings Act. And he's not authorized to sign documents that we pass, only the mayor. I challenge any of you to, I'll even send it to you via email.
to read the 1977 law. I had just graduated high school, so that's how old it is. But we do have a position of a mayor that has authority. I want people to know that when people look at our city, he's the mayor. They don't look at me, they don't look at us council members. We have to have vision. And happens to be a friend of mine, not too happy with me lately, but he's still the vision of our city. And I don't want, excuse me, I don't want anybody to belittle our mayor of our city or change the laws that you're not authorized to change. Now, whether that happens or not, it's been tabled, that'll be yet to be seen, but I would challenge my council member, Nichols, to read the 1977 law, because that 2000 law you read actually refers to 1977, and it's still there. Thank you, ma'am.
Councilmember Southworth.
I move to adjourn.
Second. I have a motion by Councilmember Southworth and a